Welcome back, everybody, to the What Have You Been Up To podcast. My name is Isaac, and I'm, of course, joined by my co-host, Nick. And Nick, we actually have a viewer question, first viewer question here, signed in. And the question is, Nick, what have you been up to?
Wow, that is a really, really exciting and original viewer question. I can't believe they came up with that. The level of critical thinking here is unmatched with our viewers, Isaac. I'm very glad that they're coming up with such thoughtful, creative questions.
What can I say, man? We have the best listeners that a podcast host could a podcast co-host could wish for, man.
Exactly. I'm good. I have woken up, Isaac, feeling a little bit groggy. I was at the pub last night because it was warm. I had a paracetamol and I drank some miso soup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a little bit of miso soup.
Nice.
Warming the soul.
I love miso, man. It's so good, you know?
So good.
So good.
It's so good. Now I've got coffee, strong coffee. So like extra shots of caffeine in there, which I don't usually get, but today I was like, yes, I need it. I need
also got
too.
Like a coffee kind of deal here.
And love the mug, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it says tea time is me time is what it says on the thing there. So I'm assuming you're familiar with the coffee chain of Canadian nature that is Tim Hortons.
I am, yes.
I don't know if you've been. Have you been?
I've been, I want to say once or twice a long time ago, and
you weren't impressed, right?
I was not impressed.
Their menu was as wide as an ocean, but as shallow as like a swimming pool, right?
Exactly.
They do everything, but none of it well. Sure. I remember your criticism. Well, there isn't a Tim Hortons too near to me, but there is one a little far out, and I've been a few times, and I quite like their French vanilla lattes, which always intrigued me, because usually if you get like a French vanilla latte, it is a latte that has like French vanilla syrup in it. Right? Mm-hmm. However, Tim Hortons also just sell like a French vanilla drink. You can get it without the coffee in it, right?
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it turns out by the checkout, they've got these like tubs that look like hot chocolate, cocoa powder, but they say French vanilla on it. So it's like a powder that they have. Or at least you can buy this powder, right? This powdered drink that you add to like hot milk or hot water. And so I was like, this Tim Hortons far away. I quite like the French vanilla. I'm going to buy the powder, right? And I'll try it at home. Take it home, try it at home. It's not the same. I don't know what it is. It's not as good. But it turns out if you make just like a homemade latte, which I have here, with a little bit of that powder in it, it's actually really nice. It adds like a little bit of sweetness. It's not too sweet. I really like it, man. Sorry, that's a quick tangent now on my what I'm drinking, which is a latte with French vanilla powder from Tim Hortons in it.
No, love that. It's like a French vanilla mocha, right? Where the hot chocolate powder has been substituted for this French vanilla powder. That sounds quite nice, actually.
It's surprisingly good. Like, again, it's not too sweet, but it's got that little bit of like a vanilla-y flavor to it. It's pretty good. I actually quite like it. I like it better than just having the vanilla powder with like water on milk. It's not that good on its own.
Yeah. No, I agree. But I kind of imagine. Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, but next time you're at Tim Hortons, French vanilla latte, I recommend it. I think it's quite good.
You know what? I think that's what I had when I went there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think, so I had that, and I remembered that being good, especially because that was my super sweet tooth era when it came to coffee. So it's bloody sweet, man. I assume you think the same. These seriously sweet drinks. And then I had the Timbits, the little donuts.
Yeah.
And they were fine, right?
I don't rate them anywhere. Everywhere that sells donuts sells quote-unquote donut holes, right? Or Timbits, as they call them. But they're just the circles of donut dough, right? I don't understand the point. Like, they're cheaper than a regular donut, and I get that. But I would just much rather have a regular donut than a Timbit or a donut hole or whatever you want to call them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, regular donuts are king. What can we say?
Yeah,
what can 100%. We say? They're just trying to come up with gimmicks and stuff, right? I don't mind mini donuts. Like, you know, the supermarkets, you get those packs of like smaller mini donuts. I like those, but not the balls.
The thing is, I don't understand what the point of the donut holes is, because it's not like I assume the logic that you're supposed to follow is that they make the donuts and they just like, the donut hole comes out of it, right? But that's not how it works. You don't make a donut and then pop the hole out of the middle, right?
No.
So they're taking separate dough that could be used to make donuts and they're using it instead to make more of these donut holes, which is just, I don't get it, man.
No, it's a lie, Isaac. It's a lie.
But you're giving me so many memory unlocks here, Nick, because when I was in Amsterdam, I actually tried a Dunkin' Donuts for the first time. I've never been to a Dunkin' Donuts. I went, and it was surprisingly good. They had one of these donuts that was like a donut crossed with like a croissant, and it had Nutella as well. So it was like this chocolate Nutella croissant donut. Man, it was delicious. It was so soft. It was so layery. It was fantastic. Let me see if I can get you like an image of this. But I really liked it, man. It was surprisingly good.
Are they called Cronuts, or is Cronuts something else?
So I think so. Like I don't know what so there's probably like, it wasn't super croissant-y, right? Or croissant-y, however you want to say it. Like it didn't. It's interesting because I don't know if like if a cronut is like a croissant that you cook like a donut, or if it's a donut. I don't know how they make it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I think it's kind of like
where you're coming from.
This, yeah, right. Whereas this was like, it had the layers, but it didn't have like the flakiness. It was still like soft and donut-y. You know what I mean? It had like that bready chewiness, I guess, that you come to expect from a donut.
So that is very similar to my Google search of cronut. It resembles a donut and is made from croissant-like dough filled with flavored cream and fried in grapeseed oil. Interesting.
That's the definition of a cronut there. So
apparently,
I guess, so it is kind of like a hybrid then. I was under the impression that like, because I've had like a croffle, which is a croissant that they cook in a waffle iron, right?
Right.
But there's no like crossover there. Whereas what you're saying is here with the cronut, there's actually like a blending of the DNA that goes into making the dough. Like it's not like they've just deep fried a croissant, and it's not like they've just taken a donut and then croissantified it somehow. They've made like a hybrid dough and then made it and then deep fried it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Which is not what I thought. I thought it would just be a ring-shaped croissant, and that was literally it. Like they just did that. Have you ever made croissants?
I have not, man, because like they're tricky to make, right? As in, like, I assume you mean like from scratch, not like you've taken them out of a bag and put them in the oven and cooked them fresh.
Correct.
You mean like you've made the dough, you've done the folding and the folding and the folding and you make it and then you put butter in and you fold it 1,000 times until you get that really light, fluffy pastry. I've not. Have you?
I haven't made it from scratch. I bought you get these tubes from the supermarket. These are the things that I usually don't even notice at the supermarket, but I was informed of it a few months ago. And you get this tube, and you the way you open this tube, first of all, it's really weird. You take the tube and you twist it. The best way I can describe how it is it's like a thinner, you know, the toilet paper, the cardboard roll inside toilet paper? It's like that, and you twist it so that it almost like unwraps itself and breaks. And then this pastry like bursts out a little bit. Yeah. And then you lay it out, and you've got to like cut it diagonally, and then you like roll it. Yeah. Now mine were absolutely terrible. They were quite nice, but they were very doughy, which is then where the difference is between doing that and then folding it with loads of butter, right? That's obviously why croissants and bakeries taste so damn good. But I have tried that. It's decent. I did also do the pain au chocolat version of that, and that was better. Like that was actually really nice, probably because it had chocolate in it.
It always baffles me. Like, again, in Amsterdam, there are so many places that sell croissants, like, and so many like little bakery places, right? And the UK just doesn't have it. Like,
No.
you can. It's not hard to find a croissant here in the UK, but like, you go to mainland Europe, it seems, and they're just like everywhere, right? You can't avoid them anywhere you go.
And they're all these nice little like independents, right? Or like these mini chains, right? Like these regional chains. Here, if you want that kind of thing, really, most of the time you're looking at a chain, right? Every now and then you'll find a small cafe which does them.
Yeah.
But they're not as good. They're not as good.
So, the thing is, I don't know. I feel like, I could be wrong here, but I feel like as well, in like Europe, they're more likely to have made them somewhat recently. Whereas in the UK, you can go get one from like Costa Coffee. They're not making those. They're getting those shipped in, and then they're serving them in. I'm pretty sure they're not making those fresh.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, I don't think so. It's weird though, because in Pratt,
the barista who can barely make my coffee is not making fresh those croissants in the back end.
It's so interesting. Every time I go to Pratt, I see like the kitchen, and they're making a lot of stuff.
In the UK.
A coffee shop chain in the UK, and they're making like fresh stuff at the back, right? And they're all bringing them in trays, and they've packaged them, and they're putting them in the shelves. And this morning, I did actually notice that someone brought out a tray of croissants. Right? So who knows? And the question I had in my mind as I observed them was, is it hot? Right? Have they actually just made these here? But then they might have had the dough imported. They might have, they might have not made it from scratch. I really don't know how it works. It might be chain dependent as well. I've been to Cafe Nero a few times as well, and every time I see their bake section, they're always like, "Oh, freshly made here, freshly made here." So I don't know if there's people in the back doing them or like what's going on.
The whole like freshly made here thing, I think is, it's like when something. I had a bag of crisps the other day, potato chips for the international viewers, and on it said like handmade, and I feel like there's just like they're stretching the extent, right? Because I think it's the same with Greggs here in the UK, where they say, freshly baked in store today, but they're usually shipped in and then baked in store, right? So they do bake them in store, but they don't make them in store. They're like frozen pastries that they take out of the freezer, stick in an oven, and then serve to you, right? So
that's it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how it works. But yeah, in Europe it's great. That's why European bakes are so damn good. Those pastries
so
they are unreal. I was actually at an independent here recently, and I went into a cafe and I got a croissant, and I walked into this cafe, and this cafe was also a chocolate factory. Oh. They were just making chocolate in there, and they put the chocolate that they made into a lot of the pastries that they were baking. And I had a cookie, or I tried some of a cookie with some of this like freshly made chocolate in it. Best cookie I've ever had. Insane.
Yeah.
It was like soft bake, like the brown sugar. You taste like the brown sugar inside it. The chocolate was like still soft and like not quite hard. It was unbelievable. Quick side tangent anyway. But yeah.
Speaking of Greggs though, Greggs in the UK is a bakery chain. Right, they sell baked goods, very famous across the country, man. But they're usually like these small little outlets, right? Small little like kind of hole in the wall style bakeries, right? You walk in, there's basically a counter. You walk up, you say what you want, and you leave, right? Maybe there's like a drinks cabinet on the way in if you want like a Coke or something. But there's usually no seating. Sometimes there is, but it's like for the most part, it's an on the go experience, right? But they're usually quite small. I don't know if you've seen this, man. The other day I was driving through Bradford. They have a drive-through Greggs. This thing is gigantic. Let me, I'm sending you a Street View link here. This thing is massive for one, and it's got a drive-through. And I was like, what in the world is going on? I don't know if that link worked.
It did.
See it?
I'm looking at it. That is massive.
It's so big. I've not been. I didn't go through, but...
That is reminding me, actually, of a Greggs that is in Birmingham. And I don't know if it's still there. I think it might be. And it's like the fanciest looking Greggs you've ever seen. Let me see if I can find it. It's just outside the West Bromwich football stadium. And it looks like a house. Yeah, I found it right. Here you go. It looks like a pub. I'm going to send you a TripAdvisor link. Here you go. with the rogue links today. Let me know if this works. There you go. It's like a pub. It looks like a pub, but it's a Greggs. It's in like a large house.
Oh,
basically.
Geez, look at that. That is...
It's quite something, isn't it? I know. You can see the stadium to the back left of it. I was walking past it. And we looked at that and we were like, what? That's a Greg's?
For those
Huge.
listening, just imagine if somebody had like a stately manor house and just decided to convert it into a fast food establishment by just putting the logo above the giant front double doors.
Yeah, like the pillared doors, right?
Right? That is madness.
Yeah.
I don't know what Greg's are doing, man, but they're expanding.
Apparently, right? Apparently. Oh, honestly.
Jeez.
Very good. Very good. Very
Anyway,
good. Very good.
Did we get derailed? Were you about to say? So the viewer asked what you've been up to, and I don't know if you. I felt like you were about to get somewhere, and I.
Yeah.
Oh, you were talking
no.
coffee. Sure.
I started talking about my coffee, which is what happened today. But so context. It hasn't actually been that long since we recorded the last podcast. It's been like, what, 4 days? But I've got an upstairs neighbours update, everybody.
So, quick recap of last week. You were talking about your upstairs neighbour who sounds like they're throwing all of their appliances at the floor at all hours of the evening. They're just like actively throwing their toasters like at the ground.
Yeah.
Tap dancing throughout the night.
Yeah.
A lot of noise, and you were contemplating putting up an anonymous, somewhat cowardly note on their door being like, hey, the surrounding apartments can hear what's going on. Could you keep it down or something like that, right? Just letting them know. And in the last 4 days, you've had an update to this saga. My first question, did you go follow through with the note or not?
I did not follow through with the note. Okay.
Okay, all right.
I didn't put the note up. So funnily enough, the night following us recording that podcast, incredibly loud, right? Talking at 3 a.m, like shouting. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. And then the next day, right, I was walking to my car quite late, about 10:30 p.m, right? And I was going to go drive somewhere. And I looked back at the windows to this building that I live in, and they were, the residents of the upstairs apartment were cleaning all the windows. And I was like, what? Why are you cleaning the windows at 10:30 p.m, right?
Yeah.
I have also observed in the past that they've been vacuuming at like 11:30, right? And I'm always like, what on earth are they doing? I've received some intel since then.
Unnamed source.
Unnamed source. It's been freaking Airbnb'd.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah. I was talking to a fellow resident and I was informed that at some point in the last however much time, the upstairs flat to me has been Airbnb'd. And I was just like, oh, that the fact that it, do you remember me saying it happens, it's on for a few days and then it's off again and it's just dead silent? I was like, what's going on? It's a freaking like sublet Airbnb, which I actually think is like against the lease of this building.
Is the person upstairs leasing the apartment and then like leasing it again, or do they own the apartment and they're just leasing it out?
This is what I need to find out. So this is yet more detective work to be done. However, I might be wrong, but I'm fairly certain that so with apartment buildings, when you buy an apartment building, right? So let's say even if you actually purchase one outright, you actually have to sign for a lease, right? Which is usually over 100 years long in terms of that length, and you've got to pay.
I think it depends. That's like if I think it can vary, right? I think usually that's the case because usually like you don't own the building, right? You own just the apartment in the building, and so you're kind of like leasing that area. I think sometimes it's a little different. Sometimes you can get like a joint ownership.
You
if
can.
There's like only 3 apartments or whatever. But is the person who owns your apartment, do they own all the apartments or do they just own your apartment?
They just own
mine.
They're
renting it to you on. Right, okay.
And
so
they're
the person
renting
upstairs
it to me.
Could own it then?
Correct.
Okay.
So they could own it, right? So when you purchase, what you've mentioned is share of freehold, which is quite rare.
It is, yeah.
But the building I live in is leasehold. So even if you buy it outright, you sign a lease, you pay ground rent, which is like couple £100 a year, and then you pay a service charge, right, which contributes to the entire upkeep of the communal areas in the building and any kind of repair works. Exactly.
Cleaning and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, the lease itself has certain terms and conditions that you kind of agree to, even if you purchase a property outright. And what I want to know is if there is a specific clause that actually bans renting as like for any kind of hotel purposes.
I can't imagine there would be, right? Like, I don't know what the difference would be practically between not allowing, between you, your landlord renting to you and whoever owns the apartment upstairs renting to other people for very short periods of time. Right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I imagine there's no difference. I
don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure because I feel like I have read somewhere that it's not allowed. There's other things about pet ownership as well, which you have to kind of declare, which is quite weird, right? You wouldn't expect that would be a thing, but I think there's quite a lot to it.
Maybe. I know, I imagine you're not allowed to Airbnb the apartment that you're in currently, despite the fact that you're leasing it. But I think if you owned, in quotes, the apartment leasehold, I think you would then be able, I would assume that they can Airbnb it, but who knows?
Who knows? I'm going to do some digging, so some small detective work. But this is quite interesting now. So first thing, good job I didn't put the note in the front on the door, right? Because if some guests turned up and saw that, they would be like, what the hell? Part of me was wanting to kind of troll a little bit and put something on there anyway for guests to turn up and see, be aware of the werewolves or the rats or something like that, right?
Yeah, sorry for the cockroaches, we're working on it.
Exactly. So and the next day, the pest control team will be in to remove all of the carpet moths in the area. We've had a significant infestation of carpet moths recently. But yeah, so I did think, good job, right?
Just really make the life of whoever owns that Airbnb horrible.
Just hell, yeah, exactly. But it's interesting because now, luck of the draw, man. Who knows what kind of guests are going to turn up, right? And the only observation I'll have is the thudding and clattering and clanging from below.
I mean, I guess there are pros and cons to that setup. The pro is that you could have had just a permanently noisy neighbor who was always there, right?
Which I did used to have once.
Exactly, right? Now you don't, but now I guess it's infrequent. I imagine it's mostly weekends when people are going to show up. So now you don't really have to worry about a constant noisy neighbor, but anybody who does arrive, I think, is likely to be up late, making a bit more noise than a standard person. Anyone who is there is probably likely to be a bit more of a disturbance than a normal neighbor that's not loud all the time, right?
Exactly. That's it.
You've kind of traded the average level of noise that is flat on a graph for an extended period of time for these big peaks and troughs of loudness than nothing, right?
That's it. That's exactly it. I'm hoping now, because schools have started again as well, that generally there'll be less people staying there. Last night, dead silent, right? Nothing. But we will see. My sleep schedule will and disturbances will correlate, I think, with that.
I need to get on Airbnb, man. See if I can book the apartment.
I know. Exactly.
I'll bring my tap dancing shoes with me.
Yeah. Of course. Steel heeled, right? Steel heels. Have you ever seen tap dancing shoes? They've got a full metal plate on the bottom of them. It's quite interesting because it's meant to deliberately, because I had a friend that I used to live with that did tap dancing.
Oh yeah, look at that.
And it's to make the sound, right? Deliberately to actually amplify that sound.
The ones I'm seeing here have got some kind of metal piece at the heel and at the front.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, yes. to amplify that metal, that tapping sound.
That's it.
Interesting. All these shoes have got screws in the bottom. It's wild. I know.
It's kind of crazy, right? And it all has to be done on wooden flooring or specific flooring so that it really gets amplified.
Extra
I thought it was
echoey
quite
floors.
Interesting. Exactly. But yeah,
wow.
Can't say I've ever actually tap danced to myself or been to any kind of tap dancing show.
Would you like to go to a tap dancing show?
I would, I would.
Yeah?
I actually think that the friend who I knew that tap danced invited quite a few of us to a show. I think I had a clash with something. I think I actually had exams. This was back when I was at university. But I would. But yeah, so
like
that's
you would go tap dancing, like
try it
if given the option, yeah.
Oh,
You think you'd change professions if you found like that you were naturally gifted at it? You think you'd go for it?
From full like chair-based work to full like standing up and then
tap dancing. Yeah. And if I practiced at home, right, we could have a cascade of complaints, right? So I'd be complaining about upstairs, downstairs would be complaining about me, and then all we'd have to do is just get them to take up tap dancing. Maybe you'd inspire them to take up tap dancing, by your tap dancing.
Exactly, and then the people below them, and then effect. Spreads. Exactly. That's the play, right? But
the tale of how you spread tap dancing to the world.
Exactly. Sounds like an actual like informational video about like the 1800s when there was a sudden tap dancemic, right, or something like that.
Tap dancing revolution.
Tap dancing. Yeah,
sweeps the nation.
It's like some kind of like mass hysteria thing, because there was that mass hysteria thing where everyone started dancing, right? I don't know if you've heard of this.
I think vaguely, but not in depth.
Yeah, there was this period of time where everyone just started mass hysteriaing and started tap dancing. Not tap dancing. There was this mass hysteria and everyone started dancing. But we need like a tap dancing version of that.
Yes, I agree. Speaking of a tap dancing show, though, man. The other week, I went to a stand-up comedy show. The first one that I'd ever been to. I've never seen comedy performed live. And by that, I mean that I've never, like, sat down and watched a stand-up comedian do it, right? I've witnessed your comedy live, Nick, here on the stream, right?
That's the baseline,
right? So I went to this little cafe that's a little ways away from me, and they had, like, a little sign that was like, hey, we're doing a comedy night. And the whole gist of this comedy night was that it was for new comedians, right? These were not comedians that had any foothold in anything. So they were like brand new stand-up comics, or they were aspiring stand-up comics, right? And me and my girlfriend were there, and I was like, we can give that a go. That sounds interesting, right? It was like 7 p.m. or whatever on a Thursday, like a month away from when we looked at it. And I was like, yeah, let's give it a go. So the day rolls around, we go to this event, I get dressed up, we go down. The cafe that it is in is not particularly big, right? And at the time I was like, I don't know how they're going to make this happen. It's kind of like, it's a little independent cafe, right? It's like, we were there for brunch. And so I was like, well, we'll go. We get there, and I think there were maybe 15 people, including us, like there to watch, right? So it's a very small event of these, a very small audience, which I guess is to be expected with new comedians, right? And the premise here is that there were 8 new comedians, and each of them had a 5-minute set. So it was just a very short little, quippy thing. And then at the end, everyone got like a QR code, and you voted on who you thought was the best, and they gave like a first, second, and third, right? To the people that were there. And for the most part, it was really good, right? These people were funny. They did a good job. But my worst nightmare, Nick, because I'm the most antisocial person in the universe, is audience interaction, right?
Yeah,
and so
I knew this was coming. Yeah.
We purposefully sat like a row back from the front row. So there's a dude stood in front of like a pull-down screen thing with a microphone, and then there's like a table in front of us that has 2 people on it. And then, so this is maybe like 6 people sat in front of us on the first row. We're on like the second row. We're not all facing forward, right? It's just like they've not moved the tables or anything. So I'm kind of like facing sideways. I've got to turn my head to look at the person, right? Because I'm on like a little table that's meant for eating food. And so, thankfully, like for the first like hour, he's interacting with like the people at the front, right? He starts off, he's asking them like, because there's one guy who comes out and he's the host, right? And he is hosting this event. And he's quite charismatic, but he's talking a lot to the audience, he's asking about people. He's doing a lot of like just riffing, right? He's talking to the people, making jokes about that kind of stuff, and kind of just, going with the flow, I guess, right? And that's all fine. But I'm like, I don't want to be, I don't want any part of this, right? I don't want to interact with this at all. But of course, that's not how it plays out, right?
No, of course not.
I think at some point he asked me and my girlfriend, first of all, if we want a date, and I was like, yeah, sure. And then he was like, how did you meet? And we mentioned the dating apps, and he talks about those for a little bit or whatever. And I'm like, fine, that was fine. That moved on quickly. But later on, he's doing this like this bit where he's talking about an ex-girlfriend of his who used to have a go at him for things that she'd dreamt that he did, right?
Right.
So he's standing at the front being like, my girlfriend wakes up and she's pissed. She's angry at me, right? And I'm like, what's up? And he was like, in this dream, you were making out with this attractive woman, right? Who had a big old booty or whatever. And then he's like, thinking about it for a second, and she's like, oh, you're thinking about her. Gosh dang it. You know what I mean? Like, anyway. So she's apparently angry at him for what he did in the dream. And then he looks at me and is like, what would you do in that situation? What would you say to get yourself out of the situation? And I'm like, I don't know. I didn't set up this premise that you've got for your joke. He's like, what would you have done? And I'm like,
he got you there.
He got me good. I'm like,
he got you.
I think he moved. He was good at what he did. He moved on quickly when I gave like a garbage answer. But overall, the night was good. They the little cafe thing. They also had like a bar, so you had some drinks. You watched some stand-up comics. I think it was tricky. The fact that they did serve drinks. Some of the other people there were quite rowdy by the end.
Right.
And I think the voting was kind of a little pointless because I think by the time you got to the end, people had forgotten the first like 5 acts, right?
Sure.
And so
sure.
The person that won was like the second to last person that went up.
Right.
I think by that point, people have had some drinks. It's been like 2 hours. They've forgotten completely about the first 3 acts that came on or whatever. But it was an interesting experience, man. Have you ever done anything? Have you ever been to like a stand-up comedy night or anything like that?
I've been invited and I've been in a situation where I've almost gone to comedy nights multiple times. I've heard they're really good.
Yeah.
I know so many people that have gone, and all of them always come out of it with very positive experiences, right? They always say, oh, it was really good. It was really interesting. You obviously have this variability of how funny people are. Some people are terrible, some are really good, but overall the whole thing is fairly lighthearted, right?
Yeah.
And it's generally very very enjoyable. Interesting that this was. So did you say this one was during the day? Like it was like a daytime thing?
It started at 7 p.m. Sorry.
Okay.
It was like 7 till 10-ish or 7 till 9.
Sure. But yeah. I have never been to a comedy show, but it is something I want to do. It's definitely something I want to do.
It's definitely an interesting vibe because like I enjoy watching like stand-up comedy on like Netflix or whatever, right? There's a lot of stuff on there.
Sure.
It's enjoyable to watch. But like it's definitely an interesting vibe when you're watching somebody live, especially somebody who is who doesn't have like they've obviously got a bit of a set routine, but like they're also kind of riffing it a little bit because they just you get stuff that you never get anywhere else, right? Where they play off the room a little bit and you get and that's like I think something that's important to be able to do as like a stand-up comedian, right? Because if you can, it makes it so much more enjoyable because you get something that you don't get anywhere else, right? That like kind of pseudo audience stand-up comedian interaction, right?
Exactly. Like I've seen on TV comedy shows, usually those I forget the name of them, but it's where it's similar to how your night went. 2 hours, very famous comedians come up for 20-minute stints, right?
Yeah.
And some of the comedians in some of these shows I've watched will come up and literally repeat all of the jokes that I've seen them do before on panel shows, like comedy shows, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, right. And then I'll see them on later, like on a different show, doing a different panel thing, let's say, on like, have I got news for you or whatever. And they'll do the same jokes again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, it ruins it. It does. Right?
Like, I get why they do it, because like if you've got good jokes, you want to just like do the good jokes, right? Especially when you're in front of a lot of people like that. But I think that's why the comedy nights are probably better, right? Because I imagine some of those people, even the famous comedians, I imagine will go out and do shows to smaller crowds where they'll try new stuff, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to try new stuff live at the Apollo, or you're not going to try new stuff, on Have I Got News for You? You're right. You're going to take the tried and tested. You're going to take the stuff that is going to get a laugh, and you're going to, play that out, right? Exactly.
I have been to a live comedy show. I saw last year Russell Peters. Don't know if you've heard of him. fairly famous Canadian comedian. I went with a friend. The friend was the fan. I'd never actually heard of him, but he basically was coming to see this near where I lived and just said, "Do you want to come with?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." So we went, and it was pretty good actually. But there was a couple thousand people there at least, right? It was big. Stadium arena kind of setup, and he was actually interacting with the crowd. He was like picking out people and like talking to them and giving them the microphone and stuff. And I did with going into that with no expectations at all. I was quite impressed, right? Because I was expecting the standard kind of setup that he would usually have of just riffing off jokes that he'd made up. But I did think that was quite good that he had a bit of audience interaction there. But something that I still need to do, go to a comedy night.
Yeah. How would you feel about performing stand-up comedy, man?
Some people have told me, that I could do it. And I've always said to them, like, it's very easy to... I have been described as being quite witty, but when you're in a environment where you have to come up with it...
That's the thing.
I feel like I'd lose it, right? I come up with, like, jokes and stuff naturally day to day, right? But if I was put in a position where I was forced in a window of time to do that, I don't think I'd be able to do it. And I think that's where the talent comes in, right?
100%.
Of comedians.
Because that's always the case, right? Like if someone's just like, if I say to you right now, be funny, like it's impossible, right? You can't be funny like on command, right? Just like do the funny thing. Come on, be funny. Make me like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not
Then I put my jester hat on,
yeah, right. It's like juggling. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if I could do it, man.
No, couldn't do it. I'll stick to doing it through the camera, right?
Doing it vaguely through the internet.
Because we can edit the bad bits out, I think. That's what you don't get. That's what you don't get in live, right?
Yeah.
That's what you don't get live.
It is kind of what you get. You know, when you see it on Netflix, they've recorded it in front of a live audience and then they've kind of chopped it a bit to make it, suitable for Netflix.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. But yeah. I haven't had that kind of experience.
It's only me who gets to hear the bad jokes, and you will get to hear
my
failed jokes.
Exactly. The ones that are edited out anyway, that the people don't see.
Yeah, these podcasts are actually 4 hours long.
Yeah.
we cut about half of it out.
A few times.
Go on.
I was going to say, I have been told a few times that I could be a host, like a TV show host. I've been told like a few times by people who had no idea that I do this. They've all said, wow, you should be a TV host. And I think that has come as a result of doing this for almost 10 years, right? That would not have been something that the way I can kind of talk and present has only been a result of talking and presenting for 9 years, which goes to that whole kind of, just start. If you want to do this kind of thing, just start and 100%. Be bad and then improve and then practice over time, right?
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, that's another thing that I don't know if I could do it, but I would definitely be more inclined to do that than stand-up comedy.
Just like hosting.
Yeah, I'll tell you
sure.
what's a really hard one, man, that I like always notice and I always think that is really impressive. News presenters and newsreaders.
What is it about the news presenter that because in my mind they're reading off a teleprompter, right?
I think it's the fact that their stumble rate is so tiny.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think I've never read off a teleprompter personally, but I can imagine if I did, I would stumble. Even though I am reading, right? I think I would stumble. It's the fact they can do that. And then like the interviews and stuff as well. And like it's like this intense couple hour period, right? Where you just go and the other thing is being able to be so neutral in delivery, no matter what the news is. I think when there's really crazy stuff that happens and they're just like reading it off the facts, right? I think they turn their like emotion off.
Yeah,
exactly.
400 children died last night. Yeah,
exactly. And like a terrible landslide in wherever, and they just say it, and they're just like.
I think, especially with the reading thing, I think it's just about getting your speed correct. Because I think one thing that you and I do is we just talk too fast, right?
Yes.
I think quite often we talk too quickly for broadcast television, right? I think if we were to slow down, and you have to with the teleprompter, right? It doesn't go at your speed, you go at the teleprompter's speed, right? And so if you're used to talking at like this kind of speed where you're talking quite fast and you're delivering words quite quickly, and then it's in news tonight, the Prime Minister has given, once you're slowing down to the speed of news presenters, because they have to talk clearly and eloquently and, precisely, I think you'd probably stumble less on those words in that scenario, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure. It's interesting. I wonder how much of that is also teleprompted as well. Because there's like morning shows, right?
Morning shows, yeah.
Like,
that's definitely not fully teleprompted, yeah.
Yeah,
but I think
more freestyled.
I'm picturing, in news at 10,
Yeah.
I think that is like scripted.
Yeah. I think everything is there's like a spectrum, right, of teleprompted, scripted, and then improvised, right? And then I guess everything, depending on what it is somewhere on that spectrum.
You can kind of see it, because I imagine that even the sit-down like morning show interview stuff is kind of pre-scripted, right? Like they'll have questions they're going to ask, they'll have follow-ups, they'll know the setup, and they'll have like a pretty, like 90% outline of what they're going to talk about. I think the only time it's probably not super scripted really is like when it's breaking news. And you see it then, because sometimes you'll see the broadcaster go, and they'll start talking really slow, and they'll start just filling the air, and they'll kind of just repeat what's happened, right? Like the camera will be like, Liz Truss resigns, right? And so they'll be waiting for it to come out, and they'll be like, so we're currently looking at number 10, where Liz Truss is expected to make an appearance any
you see
second
this during
now.
Elections.
Yeah, exactly, right? They just kind of fill the air with stuff because they're waiting. Exactly, right? Exactly. But no, I think you could do it, man. I think you could be a news presenter, a broadcaster.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. We should try it, right? We'll start doing this live now.
Any news.
Yeah. Your untrustworthy source for news.
You got the BBC, you got CNN, and you got NAI,
Exactly. The classics, right? Will be Channel 6. Right? Channel 6 News, just bottom of the hierarchy.
They sell them. I don't know if you've seen them. They've got, because obviously there's a surprising number of YouTubers who use teleprompters. And I assume that in industry, they use like these big commercial teleprompters, right? But I was looking recently, and they've got like, it's a thing that you put your phone into for a teleprompter. So you download the app, you load your script onto it, and then you put your phone in the bottom, and it like reflects up onto the thing, and then it like just you can set the word speed and stuff, and it kind of slides down, and you get this little teleprompter that's just your phone kind of reflected up back at you. And I thought that was really nifty.
Yeah. I know loads of YouTubers do that, but they've got a permanent setup with an iPad.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at them a while ago, because I was like, do I need one of these for like work related things? I didn't buy one in the end.
Yeah. The thing is, I saw this. The thing that I saw was on a Kickstarter, right, for like the second generation of this teleprompter thing they had, and I was like, should I get one? And then I was like, you don't do any pre-scripted content, but maybe we should start scripting this, and I can just kind of like look get ahead. Hi Nick, and welcome back to the What Have You Been Up To pod. For those listening, I'm looking straight ahead, pretending to look at a teleprompter,
and I'd be like, hi, Isaac. I scroll down too fast. Need to go.
We've got to add that broadcast delay as well. So I'm like, over to you, Nick.
Thanks, Isaac. Yes, just this just in. Got to do the little earpiece touch, right?
Yeah, you always seem like just the hair or something, or just the...
Yeah. Exactly. Some people use foot pedals, to control it. They've got like what is it? What you use for musical instruments like guitars and stuff. They got 2 foot pedals. I think Elgato does one actually.
They do, yeah. I've contemplated getting one, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like get all the scrolling for the teleprompters. But yeah, I for like work related things, I was wondering whether to get a teleprompter and do some scripted pieces. But what I found was actually just trying to speak what I wanted to say, improvising, getting it wrong, like quite badly, and then like, hiccuping, making mistakes, but then and then transcribing it, and then editing all the crap out, and then you've got a script.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's quite interesting, because I was trying to determine if that took less time than actually writing a script in the first place. But I think it was really interesting, because when I did try doing that, you have all of the natural words, filler words, and intonations. So you'd be like, so then we do this. And also you'd have all these words where you could actually say every single word in the script, rather than writing it like an essay, and then when you say it, it doesn't sound very scripted, right?
I think it's a mistake that a lot of people make, is they'll write a script and then they'll go to read it, but if you've not practiced it first, you don't know where those intonations go, you don't know where to add breaks, you don't know where to add emphasis, and nobody writes how they speak, right?
No.
You start writing down and you sound like ChatGPT, right? You've written a sentence or a few sentences, and then you read them out, and it doesn't sound like anybody talks, right? And especially if you're trying to produce scripted content that has that air of not being scripted content, which I think is what most people want, then you do have to, I think, practice it. And then I think your method there, actually, of not even writing a script, saying what you want, and then editing it afterwards and then redoing it is almost certainly the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I use software called Descript to do that. You can put an audio file in it, or you can record using the software, and it basically uses a bunch of algorithms and AI to transcribe it, and then you edit the audio piece.
I've seen this. I was contemplating
like
using it for the podcast that we record.
Honestly,
here.
I was contemplating telling you about it to use for the podcast. It is actually really good, and you can assign.
Heck, man, if you're paying for it,
speakers.
I need to start sending you the podcast. You can do it.
Yeah, right. There is a free version. I'm gonna pull out. This is my excuse. There is a free version.
The free version, you only get 1 hour per month, Nick, of transcription.
Oh,
we don't do 1 hour. Yeah, exactly right.
It's 10, isn't it?
Yeah,
no, that's true actually, which is what I actually pay for. You can assign 2 speakers, and it will like highlight the different speakers in different colors. Not a sponsor. Although if you want to, I'm pretty sure they got funding by OpenAI. So like, I mean, Descript, if you wanna like sponsor us with some of that VC money, like please, like
we're gonna censor the name out throughout this podcast so that they have to pay. Yeah.
Exactly. So
what we'll do is we'll censor the name out. We'll send them the podcast early, and we'll be like, hey, if you pay us, we'll uncensor the name.
Exactly. It's like paying for heated seats, right? It's already there. It's going to pay to unlock it.
Oh, that's terrible, man.
Oh,
it's
terrible.
Heated seats thing. Jeez.
Pay for heated seats. We can't do that, man. We can't do that. It's bad.
I think we've talked about it before. The reference there is that like cars manufacturers are starting to implement features, like they'll put the feature in every car, but they won't have it available in every car unless you pay to unlock it, right? So like, I think Tesla do this, right, where every car has heated seats, but you have to pay extra up front to get them, but then you can also pay later to unlock them. So if you buy the car without heated seats, you can pay like $300 or whatever later on down the line to pay it. And like, part of me feels like it's terrible, but on the other hand, I think it's bad the way that companies can dictate what you do with your hardware forever, right? The fact that Tesla, you have heated seats in the car that you purchased, but you're not allowed to hack the software or whatever, or do anything. Like if someone develops a way to unlock it for free, that's illegal, right? You're not allowed to do that.
Exactly.
Which is crazy. I think that is bad, right? I don't think you should be able to lock... I think basically once you have the car, you should be able to do whatever the heck you want with it, including the software that's on board, right? So long as you're not then like selling it to somebody else, I think you should be able to do what you want with it. At the same time, though, from a consumer standpoint, if my car, like I don't have heated seats or like a heated steering wheel, if my car gave me the option right now to pay like £150 for a heated steering wheel or heated seats, I'd probably do it. I'd probably be like happy that was an option that was available to me at this stage in the game, right? Right now, if I want heated seats, I've got to go spend 30 grand on a new car, however much, 15 grand, right? So it's a tricky one, man. It really is a tricky one.
And that's what they say, the manufacturers, that's their reasoning. Obviously the marketing reasoning is, oh, well, how convenient would it be if you didn't want to pay for it now, but then wanted it later, right? It's that whole like it. I remember this was. I think we talked about this in the first episode of the podcast, but thinking about it again now, it reminds me of the window last decade when video games used to come with, is it day one DLC or like day zero DLC? And it would be on the disc, right? It would be on the disc, but you had to pay to unlock it. It's the same kind of thing, right? Yeah. But the problem is, man, we become used to that now. So in 10 years' time, it's going to be the norm.
It's a slippery slope though, right? Because the heated seats thing, I think I'm generally okay with that. Right? I do again, as I've said before, I do disagree. I feel like once you have a car, you should be able to do whatever the heck you want with it, right? The fact that Tesla can like limit that you're not legally allowed to change your car because you break like DMCA or something is crazy. But it's a slippery slope to this everything as a service, right?
Yeah.
If it's you can pay 100, 300, however many pounds or dollars to unlock the heated seats, that's one thing. If it's just pay £5 a month and you get the heated seats, I'm big out. That's a big yikes, big no from me on that one. I don't want to do any kind of subscription stuff for things that are just in the car. For something that costs the manufacturer nothing to upkeep, I'm out on that one.
Yeah. The worst thing about that as well with physical goods is that it then doesn't transfer over to the next owner, right? If you pay a few £100 to unlock heated seats, that increases the used value of the vehicle to an extent when you sell it on, right? You could say, we've paid for the heated seats. I know when I've looked briefly at used Teslas, a lot of them in the descriptions will say, full self-driving paid for, or, faster acceleration paid for. And obviously then that's money prepaid, right? But if it's a monthly payment, it's who cares, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Which is also problematic. Everything as a service is woeful, man. The amount of things that you used to be able to pay for that now as monthly or annual payments only is crazy.
It's wild,
right?
man. And I mean,
it's bad.
It's tricky though, because I can see the pros and cons of it, right? It's real easy to be like, things as service is bad, right? That's like the default opinion, I think, for most people is just like paying everything being a service is not good, like that's bad. And I get it. But at the same time, I do think that it's somewhat beneficial, right? Adobe gets raked over the coals for this, right? Because Adobe is expensive, right? You got to pay monthly now for Photoshop.
Yeah.
Whereas before you had to pay upfront. But like, and I don't think Adobe update their software enough to warrant the monthly payments forever, right? Like, if you're an actual professional, it probably would have just been cheaper. It definitely would have been cheaper just to purchase the software. But I guess for other people, like for me as a creator, I would not have been able to pay £600 for Photoshop and £600 for Premiere and £600 for Audition, right? I wouldn't have had like $3,000 or however much to spend on all of the Adobe software. So for me, especially when I was younger, you get like a student discount. It's £15 a month, right?
Yeah,
and you get access to the best stuff, Photoshop, right? It's the photo editing software, and so on the one hand, I get that. So like, if cars came down in price, right? If there was a car that was like $9,000 brand new, but everything inside of it was service, right?
Yeah.
You want to use Bluetooth, it's £4 a month. You want to use heated seats, it's £8 a month. You want to open the trunk, it's 80p a month. Like, if you want to have more than half of the capacity for the battery, like whatever. If they lower the price of something and then offer it, I still personally wouldn't take them up on that offer, right? Like, it's like I don't buy the Amazon Fire tablets that have ads on the front screen, right?
I was just because they're cheaper.
I don't get it. But I can understand the value there, because at that point you're opening up the possibility of these things to more people, right? And I think at that point that's a good trade-off, because generally I think having a car probably increases your ability to make more money, right? Like you're more mobile, you can get more job opportunities, whatever. And so allowing people to get cars for cheaper and then profiting off them making more money by then choosing to upgrade their car, I think is fine. But if it's the only option, that's when I'm like, I'm out, right?
Yeah.
If it becomes main practice to where you go to buy a car, it's still $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and you then have to also pay monthly for heated seats or for, extra speed. Like Tesla dropped an upgrade to increase acceleration. If that was like a monthly fee.
Yeah, God, it's quite funny actually that you've given me the vision of like an ad supported car.
Yeah,
it's like you go in and the screen's we've got ads on it unless you pay, right?
You got pops up on the sat nav. It's like, you know, routing to McDonald's. Wait 5 seconds and then click the X. You know, you gotta wait 15 seconds to be like, no, I don't want to go. Nope. It's got the route planned out, and then you gotta be like, no, thank you.
Yeah, it's like we're picking like the slowest route, right? Tolls only. If you want the fastest route, you got to pay extra.
Tolls only. They get a kickback,
right? From the road like organisations.
You've got to pay extra for efficient mapping.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, man, is that like Mercedes, I've spotted this. They sell cars that are now electric cars that are like upwards of like £100,000, right? And they all have the performance pack for $9,000, right? Which is pure software, right? And I'm like, it's the problem is that the cars aren't getting cheaper. That's the thing. Unfortunately,
I mean, it might change because right now electric cars are all expensive, right?
That's
I think
true.
the cheapest electric cars are like 30 grand, right?
Yeah. I think the MG one, which is pretty good. I think that's I want to say, about that much.
Yeah, I think like the electric Mini is like 27, right? It's pretty cheap in air quotes compared to other electric cars. But so electric cars in general, I think the average electric car probably still costs like 65 grand or something. I remember reading that recently, which is way outside of like the average consumer's purchasing power, right? So I think there's a possibility though that as that changes, as electric cars become cheaper, if they do become cheaper, because like right now there's the whole thing with like cobalt or whatever it is and lithium. Like there's a lot of like rare earth minerals that are making that questionable. But if they do become cheaper, then I could see there being this market for just like, it's just the same way that like tablets have become cheaper, right? There was the initial iPads or whatever that were very expensive, and now you can get these Amazon Fire tablets that are cheap as chips because they come with ads, right? And I could definitely see that being in the cards for cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if they were cheaper, wouldn't be massively against that either.
Would you buy one?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Yeah, I'm a massive car guy as well. I'm like trying to
you only drive
not get an electric car for as long as possible. Yeah, like I exactly. That's why I have that's why I actually drive a bus.
Yeah, I drive I'm going to get you a tank for your birthday, man. Don't you worry.
Thanks, man. That's just what I wanted. I'm glad you know me that well.
I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't drive a bus. I don't know how they do it. Like, the roads are so narrow. Honestly, I drive such a small car, and I feel like sometimes it's hard to turn certain corners and stuff.
I don't know how they do it. It's city centres as well. I'm like, wow, fair play.
Right?
But yeah, I'm like, first of all, trying to stick to having a fuel-based car for as long as possible until I'm forced to get a electric car.
See, I'm the complete opposite here. I want an electric car, but I just can't justify buying a new car because like my car is fully paid off and it doesn't... it works. Right?
Yeah, that's like, it. That's fair enough.
I'd love a new car. Enough. I've had mine for like 6 years now. But at the same time, I could buy an electric car and it would be cheaper to run. But like the electric car is so expensive to purchase that the payoff period of that is going to be like 15, 20 years. It's going to be way too long. And so the only benefit is like a more attractive looking car that I drive around in, and like who cares, right? It gets you from point A to point B. The new car wouldn't do it any differently, apart from maybe accelerating faster. So yeah, that
is fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I got my car almost a couple years ago now, and like I'm cool with it. My biggest problem is that I don't have at-home charging facilities, right? And electric car charge diminishes over time. Sometimes quite substantially, especially in colder months as well. So I personally am not in the current situation where I would be comfortable with owning one, because then I'd have to go and charge it, even if I've not been driving it. I also do loads of road tripping. Every month or so, I'll do like, a 400-mile round trip, right?
Which I don't think, I don't think is that bad on an electric vehicle, right? Like, you might have to stop for 30 to 40 minutes to charge. If you got a car that can charge quickly, that is. Like,
yes. So
I imagine like a 400-mile trip in your dad's Tesla would be fine.
So I have done a quite a long trip in that to try it, right?
Yeah.
And I think I talked about this a couple podcasts ago. It was fine as long as you are on motorways that have good charging spots. Yeah. When you're within a location, especially if it's more rural, then you really need to hope that wherever you're staying has charging facilities, right? Or at least like a plug socket or something like that if you're going to be staying for quite a few days. And I think that was the biggest problem that we found.
So that's the thing. But, I think I'm the exact opposite. Like, for me, if someone came and were like, if Minnie called me up and were like, hey, we can do a free swap of your combustion engine to an electric system, right? Just like snap my fingers and it's done. I'd take them up on it. I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Swap it out. Make it electric, right? Whereas I'm assuming you wouldn't do that for your current vehicle. You'd be like, no, I'm going to stick with the fuel for now. But at the same time, I think we probably drive different amounts. My driving, I do like at most 2 mile round trips. I think last year, I had my MOT not so long ago, and the woman, when I came to pick up my car, she was like, you don't drive a lot, do you? I think I've done 4,000 miles in the year.
Right.
So I've done basically nothing, right, in terms of driving. And so for me, it's all short trips, right? I drive to the gym, I drive to the supermarket, I drive to friends and family. Like, I don't drive usually. I do occasionally, but like very infrequently do I do 200, 300, 400 miles. I don't think I've ever driven 400 miles in one go, man.
Oh, man. I think the longest I did was a trip to Edinburgh last year, and I think that was 260, 270 miles away.
Yeah.
That was my bum hurt, man, by the end of that. I was like, oh my God. It was an amazing drive. I absolutely loved it. The weather was great too.
Yeah.
But I was like, And coming back as well, I came back on my birthday and I had like a family meal booked for like a certain time. And as I was leaving, the amount of time that Google Maps said it would take to get home was for the exact time that this meal was booked for. So I was like,
did you arrive on time?
I arrived bang on.
Oh,
it was great.
Look at that.
It was very good.
With the accuracy.
Google Maps is scarily accurate these days, man.
Like, it'll be like traffic info though, right?
They do, don't they? It'll be like 43 minutes. Yeah. And I'll be like, 43, like, that's very exact. And then like the traffic conditions will change throughout this trip. 43 minutes later, exactly, I will arrive at where I need to go. It's because they've just got all the data.
They've got so much data, right? Yeah. And then when you complete your trip, they add you to the data set, right? So
exactly.
No, I always notice it because I'll usually, if I've got a longer trip, I'll check Google Maps to make sure I can arrive on time, right? And I'll get in my car, and my car will have no idea how long the trip is going to take, right? I think the car does some rudimentary math, thinking like, okay, so you're going to go the speed limit all the time, and you're always going to you're never going to slow down ever for anything. You're the only one driving on the road. You're always driving exactly at the speed limit. This is how long it's going to take. Because Google Maps will be like, oh yeah, it's going to be a 53-minute drive. And my car's like, you got this, 30 minutes. And it's not. It always takes me 50 minutes to get there.
Yeah, right. It's like red lights don't exist, basically.
Red lights don't exist, or the cars don't exist, pedestrians don't exist. Like, turning corners, you do that at 30 miles an hour, you're like, you never slow down.
Exactly. Oh, it is quite funny. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know how much you use Google Maps then, but I've noticed within the last few months, the routes prioritize fuel efficient routes if the time taken to destination is within a certain range of the fastest route, right? I've been driving routes that I used to drive. So I've been, used to driving certain routes for years. And recently, Google Maps is taking me a completely different way. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know this route existed. And it will be because it's now chosen a different route based on fuel efficiency. Like, I was coming back last night and I was having a look and I was like, these roads seem very unfamiliar. Like, I've never come back this way. Has something gone on like the motorway or something like that? No, fuel efficient route, right?
Yeah, no.
And I do wonder how much fuel it actually saves. It does tell you it's like 15% better, 10% better, but I wonder what the reality is on that.
I see it quite regularly on Google Maps for sure as well. I've noticed it where it'll be like, there'll be two things that'll be like, oh, this is 48 minutes. And there'll be another one that's like 43 minutes or 46 minutes. It's like a few minutes shorter. but it'll tell me that like it's actually longer, like it's more miles to go this way, and therefore like less fuel efficient than it is to go this way, which is slower but fewer. It's actually closer and therefore is more fuel efficient. Yeah, it's an interesting choice they've made with that one.
Yeah,
I think
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And you can set your fuel type in the settings.
Oh,
so you can set fuel, like regular fuel, hybrid, or electric, right? And sometimes if I switch it, the route will change slightly.
Yeah.
And I think electric favors city driving, shorter, lower speeds and stuff like that, right? Whereas fuel is usually
trying to like
favors higher speeds, lower gear, like higher gears, stuff like that. But I found that quite interesting as well. But so if you do use that, make sure you get your fuel type right.
I usually don't I don't use Google Maps. So my car doesn't have like CarPlay or anything like that. So I do have sat-nav built in, and I will almost always use the sat-nav in the car. I'll kind of like check on my phone to see how long it's going to take me to get there, but then I'll just get in the car, put the destination into the sat-nav on the car, and follow the car's sat-nav. And usually it takes me a similar route, right? Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll have to like try and tweak it a bit if I'm, really tight for time. But but I usually just use the sat-nav in the car and hope that it gets me there in around the same time that Google's told me it's going to take.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. In my old car, I used to have sat-nav built in as well. But what I'd always do is I'd put Google Maps on because I had like a dashboard holder for my phone, and I'd always put Google Maps on at the same time. And I'd people always used to say, "What is wrong with you?" But I always used to say, "Second opinion," right? I'm getting a second opinion from my car's sat nav.
Yeah, and when your car sat nav tells you to drive over a lake, you're like, "Oh, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll take the bridge."
Maybe I'll pick the Google Maps one. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man.
Oh dear.
Speaking of updates, though, you mentioned an update to your neighbour storing. I have a small update, not really a very small update, man. I just want to show you how the zombie bite I've got has gotten worse, man. It's getting so much. Look at this.
Oh my god!
Look at that. It is.
Holy crap!
It's bad, man. It doesn't hurt
conveniently hidden
at
that
all
up to this point, right?
I've got to reach quite high up to get that, in frame. But yeah, no, it's it's quite bad, man.
So in our topic list, I've just got zombie bite update. I actually forgot. I forgot that we talked about this, so I didn't know what you were referring to. But now it's a very, very fitting description.
Right? It does look like I've been infected, man.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's fine. Like,
it's just it's a bruise, isn't it? It's a bruise. It's a bruise. They will go away eventually.
A hematoma. It says hematoma is a bad bruise. It happens usually when an injury, I guess in this case was just blood taken, causes blood to collect and pool under the skin. The pooling blood gives the skin a spongy, rubbery, and lumpy feeling. Usually not cause for concern. Like it looks worse than it is. Basically, is the premise there. So yeah, it's been over a week since I had the blood taken. And yeah, it's slowly getting worse. It's slowly looking worse, but I think it's getting better. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, good that it doesn't hurt, but like next time we record, if your neck's starting to look like a little bit like blue and purple, and it's like
coming all the way.
Spreading right all the way. This is where it starts. It really is like a zombie bite. Then that might be a slight cause for concern. I think it just looks worse than it is. Like
my face is purple. I'm like, it's fine, guys. It's fine. I'll get there. Don't you worry. It's on its way.
Oh my goodness me. That is quite the injury, man. Jeez.
It was the tiniest little needle for a blood test. I don't understand.
Who would have thunk it? Such a small device could have caused such a large bruise.
Right?
Oh my God.
And the bruise is like nowhere near. Because again, like the little thing was here and the bruise goes all the way up to here. It's madness.
It's funny because there's like a small gap of normal skin in between the like site of the injection and the bruise. Yeah, exactly. That's quite wild, that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. I don't know how they've done it, but but yeah, that's my zombie bite update. I'll keep you all abreast of the situation. For those listening, it is just like a bruise that is quite big. And
quite big.
And quite purple as well.
Quite purple, yeah. Both of those things quite.
That's how I would describe it. Quite big and quite purple. What about you, man? What else you up to?
Very good. I went to a festival this weekend. I was away. It was pretty good. Nice weather near Bristol, or in Bristol. And I did have a minor illness, like just leading up to that. I had like a 24-hour temperature that came in the day we recorded the last episode, right? So it was a good job we did it like that day, because like later that day I was like, God, I feel awful. And the next day I woke up and I was like, like shivers and body aches and like that kind of like feverish feeling. But then I went to this festival and I became better. I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to go there. I'm going to have to like be outside. I'm going to be drinking. Went there, just within... I've never really noticed recovering from an illness that quickly, but effectively, within the space of 1.5 hours, I went from feeling terrible to just being completely fine. It was really bizarre.
You should document your findings and see if you can get festivals prescribed,
I should. Yeah. We should prescribe festivals. Maybe it was the outdoor air, man.
Maybe.
the thumping bass, like slowly like shattering my spine. But it was a side tangent to the festival itself, which was good. Something very interesting that I observed, Isaac. First of all, I've not been to a festival in 7 years, right? So I was at this one. I was like, cool. It was great. The toilet situation was interesting.
No portable potties?
Portable potties were there, right? I was expecting to have to use portable potties. Can we
take a nanosecond to just acknowledge the fact that why do they call them portable potties? Like I understand it's like porta potty, but like why potty? Like no one over the age of like 14 months old uses the term potty, right? And I just don't.
Honestly, I think that's an American thing. I think most people here do refer to them as portaloos, but you're making me wonder if it's like a brand name, like porta potty, and maybe that's why.
Maybe.
I'm seeing a brand of called porta potty here.
Oh yeah, POTTI with the registered trademark.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a Hoover style thing, right? Where like that then became the description of any portaloo.
Yeah, like a Henry Hoover became a just all vacuum cleaners. And how Googling something is just all search engines. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh. But like,
although these porta potties aren't the porta potties we're referring to. These are like
in small
standalone units.
Yeah,
not like a cubicle.
Maybe for like camping
thing.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
but anyway,
exactly.
I just thought it was odd that they call them potties because, like, I can't remember the last time I said the word potty because I don't know any infants.
I think one of my little brothers being potty trained, maybe.
But go on. So they did have portable toilets.
They did. Now, the week before, almost exactly a week before, I went to an event with some friends locally, and there were actual porta potties that I had to use. Right, hate them. First of all, there's no light inside them. Like, this is a fundamental design flaw, right? So I had to go into this porta potty or portaloo, shut the door. What I did was I turned my phone flashlight on and then put it just deep enough in my trouser pocket, right? That the flashlight was, the camera section was sticking up out the top, right? To provide some light. Yeah. And it was disgusting. Someone had left a jumper in there.
Of course, like, why wouldn't they? Yep.
There was just, there was paraphernalia and narcotics everywhere, right? Along with just urine and bits of toilet roll. It was nasty. I didn't use the toilet after that. Compare it then, fast forward a week, I was expecting that at this festival, I would have to use a similar style setup, right?
Yeah.
Instead, I was directed to a large area for the men's toilets, right? In which they had the portaloo version of urinals, right?
I love the way you emphasize the I in urinals.
Urinals.
It sounds like saying your inals. Nobody else I know says urinals, but I like it. Don't you worry, man.
Maybe it's a regional thing.
It might be.
Let me show you what this looked like. I'm gonna pull up a photo of like how this looked in terms of like when we were actually there, like when there's lots of them positioned near each other. Let's have a look at this one's pretty good. Yeah, let's go with this one. Okay, so I'm going to send you a photo.
I'm ready, man.
Of what this looks like. And it looked a little something like this.
Oh.
Yeah. Not
Wait, are there
what
like
you
four
would be
of those
expecting.
there? Is that like 4 quote-unquote urinals? Like,
correct.
oh, so
correct.
I'm looking at like, I'm looking at what looks like a trash can, maybe? Like, it's like a large rectangular box that has like 4, like a cutout on each of the 4 sides, north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
For you to pee into, I guess, with like very minimal coverage around those sides.
Yes. Yes.
I see.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
So did they have like just a couple of these plotted down and like 4 people would go to each one? Is that how that worked where you were?
So I went in and there was like this toilet. Honestly, it was organized really well. This toilet area was huge. Honestly, there was probably about 15 of those, right? All dotted in this designated area that was like fenced off. And I went in and first of all, I was like, how on earth, what is this? And then I obviously saw people standing and peeing in them. And I was like, oh, okay. That's how you use it. And then I went and I, stood in front of one of them, and you can't really see it in the photo that I sent you, but it looks like there's no drainage.
Yeah.
Right?
Looks like it just sits in that box.
Yeah. Right. There's 4 really tiny little holes at the bottom of that. And, that's where it drains into. But I started peeing, and honestly, you have to get like the perfect angle to not get splashback. Like there was like a serious risk of splashback here, and I was like it took quite a lot to find the correct angle. But if you are at a outdoor event that has these, pee on the bottom surface, right? Not against the back wall. That's how to do it. And
the
then
back
it will
walls
go
on
into
these
the drainage holes.
flat, right? Whereas a normal urinal is curved to kind of funnel it down. No, this is flat.
Exactly.
And so I imagine it's just going to come right back out here.
Exactly. Which is what I started doing, and I very quickly learned my lesson. And I was like, no, okay.
But the ones that you had were just like this,
exactly the same.
and there are 4 slots, right? But so
4
it's quite
sides.
plausible that you're just like facing dead on against, like looking directly at somebody else who is also trying to pee. That's horrendous. That is horrible. It's like normally, urinals are up against a wall, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine going into a place where they've got urinals that are like smack bang in the middle of the room, and then you just have to face somebody on the who's a urinal opposite you. That's terrible.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. Now, luckily, there were so many of these in the area that there was never a situation where
like you never had 4 people all crowded around
someone.
one.
Yeah, exactly. There was a couple of situations where I was on like the south
like
side,
perpendicular to someone.
Exactly, and someone was on the west side, right?
Yeah,
which was kind of fine. And like honestly, in this photo, like the little side walls that stick out a little bit, even though it doesn't look like it sticks out much, they did quite a good job of just kind of shielding your lower half, right? Yeah. Which was quite interesting. But that was a very interesting urination situation. But I was very glad they were there because better than Portaloo, right? That's way better than using Portaloo. It's quicker.
It just reminds me when I see all these photos of they'll be like, oh, this is an American bathroom, and they've got like stalls that are like only halfway up, they only go halfway, right. So you sit down and you can just like look over and see whoever's just sat next to you. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
No, there's nothing I appreciate more than toilets in establishments that are cubicle by cubicle toilets that have like the sink inside and the whole setup, right, and the dryer. At my old work, they actually used to have that in one of like the bathrooms. Used to have that set up, and it was beautiful. It was like a nice posh version of an airplane toilet. But yeah, honestly, that American style bathroom situation is my worst nightmare. I don't even know where to go.
Thankfully, the hotel I was in Amsterdam, floor to ceiling, they had the cubicles, but they were just like
beautiful.
Not even like sometimes they do cubicles where you can. There's like over and under, right? Like, there's like a gap on the floor and a gap on the roof. These, no, floor to ceiling. They were like just little rooms, just a toilet in it. Great. Lovely.
Nice.
Nice. I don't know how I would, like, obviously I'd use these outdoor urinals if they were the only thing available, but like, I wouldn't love being like, having to look into another man's eyes. Yeah, exactly. Whilst,
yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Whilst I pee into one of these things.
That's it. Yeah, that is fair enough. I think the drinking probably helped with that for everyone. But yeah, you've actually given me a memory unlock from when I was in Amsterdam and the hotel room I was in. I was sharing a hotel room with 2 other people, right?
Yeah.
Dude, the toilet in this hotel room was a glass sliding door, right? That was translucent. So the bathroom door was glass, translucent, and had the above and below gaps, right?
Yeah.
Which was a nightmare for anything, right? Because then you'd slide this door closed. You were effectively just 3 meters away from everyone else with no seal and the ability to effectively see in.
Yeah.
Man, when I needed the toilet, when I needed number 2, I went downstairs to the hotel reception. It was that was quite funny. But
you've reminded me though. I was reading this thing a while back about like Amsterdam's outdoor toilets. Because apparently they got a big problem in Amsterdam, right? It's a very tourist-heavy place, and they specifically called out British tourists by name for being terrible for urinating into the canal, which was like like getting plastered, and then just peeing in the canal.
Yeah,
so they've got. If you Google, I've Googled Amsterdam outdoor toilet, but if you just Google, it's called a pee curl. They've got these outdoor urinals that are just like. It's basically a little spiral, and then inside of that spiral is just like a urinal. So they're designed in such a way that you have some privacy, but you can obviously just pee without having to go find a toilet, right? And then to also not pee in the canal. You'll see it's right. This picture on the Wikipedia page is like right by the canal, right?
Yeah, no, I do see that. That is very interesting.
Yeah, apparently it was their solution to too many tourists just like peeing in the street or. In the canal when they got a bit rowdy, which unfortunately UK tourists have a reputation for being.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain right now there's like an advertising campaign. I don't know if it's from the Dutch government for the Netherlands or if it's somewhere else, but it's like they're trying to like warn against British tourists.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, don't come here, please, basically. Which, it's a problem where they're actively trying to deter British tourists from coming to visit.
Yeah.
But that Pico is very interesting because it reminds me of the public toilets they have in London, which are they're these discs on the ground, right? And at a certain time of day, probably like, towards the evening, like, 9, 10 p.m., they like automatically rise out of the ground like a bollard.
Yeah.
And it's a toilet cubicle, which I've always thought was weird, right?
Gosh, I'm looking at this, man. Amsterdam has a new message for male tourists from the UK, quote, stay away. In an ad campaign aimed at British men between 18 and 35, the Dutch capital threatens fines for visitors who are looking for a, quote, messy night. In one such ad, a young man it says here, the next time a British male searches for it, they're going to find the stay away. In one such ad, a young male is slumped over a bench before he's taken into an ambulance by a medical personnel. Another shows a close-up of a man being handcuffed and fingerprinted by the police. Coming to Amsterdam for a messy night, that could incur a hospital stay as criminal record. Yikes. It's horrible how much of a bad reputation we've got.
I know. Like, internationally.
I'm not gonna lie, though. I guess, like, I have a lot of like my advertising cookies and trackers and stuff turned off. I didn't get any of these ads when I was searching for, Amsterdam flights, but
that's good. That's good.
Despite falling into that age bracket. But
yeah. I haven't seen any of those either, although I guess I did go before this as campaign was introduced.
But I think they're also kind of I think local government there in Amsterdam is wanting to like move the red light district out of the center I was watching another thing there.
Oh,
they want to move
really?
it to like center adjacent, so it's like not right now it's
Sure.
smack bang in the center, right? They want to move it
Yeah,
out of the
it's-
center to kind
Yeah.
of its own area, so that it's again not just like people coming to do illicit
You are
substances,
right.
drink too much, and
Like-
yeah.
Yeah, the red light district is so central that people I know have accidentally ventured onto there.
Yeah,
right? Because it's like the main mile almost, like
That's-
north to south.
That's the thing. My girlfriend talked about it because she'd been with her family when she was like, I don't know, like 12 or something, right? They'd been to Amsterdam. And she talked about the fact that they got off the train and her dad started walking forward and they just stumbled. She's like 12 years old. They just stumbled into the red light district.
Yeah.
They were just there.
Yeah, it's just
And
that.
it's like, oh,
it's
okay.
crazy. It's crazy. I always thought that was quite funny. It's so like juxtaposed, right? Like it's this beautiful canal with all these like gorgeous buildings and everything, and it's just like red light district is just there. And it's quite interesting because then it's during the day it's all shut, right?
Yeah,
like all the shutters are down. It's all very quiet. So I kind of see why they'd want to do that. I wonder what they'd replace it with. Bars and shops?
I imagine so, yeah. Because I think there's already like more than one. I think there was already like a secondary like red light area that's like on the outskirts. And I think they're just wanting to move the center one out like that other one so that they're both away from the center. So that the center's not just full of drunk young British men who are going there for nefarious purposes.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is fair enough. I mean,
but I guess it's tricky, right? Because like on the one hand, it's like tourist revenue. On the other hand, it's like what kind of tourist revenue do you want, right?
Yeah. There'll be like a calculation of if the damage in the physical damage and reputational damage of that type of tourist costs more than them what they contribute to the economy when they come and visit, right? Which is interesting. That clearly they have calculated that and it's worse, which is very interesting. But speaking of drinking substances, Isaac,
I like the segue. Yeah, you got it.
I was away a few weeks ago with a few friends. In fact, this was the same trip in which I mentioned where I witnessed the shoplifting, right? That I talked about in the previous episodes. And I was on this trip, and we went to a bar that is a chain. And in this bar, we went to do axe throwing, right? Went to do axe throwing.
This is
and
a
beer
trip
pong.
in the UK, sorry, right?
Trip in the UK, domestic trip.
Yes, yeah.
Axe
throwing. In the bar?
Yeah, so basically, there's a chain called Boom Battle Bar, right? And it's a bar that offers various activities and games like mini golf, axe throwing, beer pong, pool, that kind of thing, right? It's really interesting.
Like beer pong, mini golf, those kind of scenarios, sure, I understand, right? I've been to a bar called Roxy's here in the near Leeds, and they've got like
very similar to Roxy's.
They've got like bowling, table tennis, again, mini golf, whatever.
Yeah.
Axe throwing though seems quite a dangerous activity to give to people who are under the influence of alcohol.
Yes, so it's very interesting. I've been to two of these bars. I went to one in Liverpool, and now I've been to the one down south as well. And you turn up, right? And if you've booked axe throwing at any point during your visit, they immediately put a wristband on you, and the bar will not serve you
until
if you've got a wristband on.
Oh,
yes. So you are not allowed to consume any alcohol
before you start throwing axes.
Right? And I'm fairly certain there was also a clause that basically said if you look like you've been drinking,
yeah, sure,
like it's staff discretion, they won't let you do it. Right.
I'm looking at the one in Leeds here, and they've only got augmented reality axe throwing.
I was talking to someone about this, and they said, "Oh, was it the virtual one?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "No, it's virtual, right?" And I was like, "What are you on about?" And it must be this.
I'm looking at the one in Leeds. They've got augmented reality axe throwing, augmented reality darts as well.
Yeah, AR darts is quite cool. I don't know if you've ever been to a flight club. That's a chain that's in the UK. No. That's augmented reality darts. And that's actually very fun because you throw physical darts at a dartboard, but the whole thing's gamified. That is a trend, though. I played augmented reality mini golf in Manchester a few months ago, where your golf club has like a box in it, and it's like a smart golf club. And you play mini golf on a mini golf course as normal, but it tracks all the players and the amount of like hits they've taken or shots they've taken, and it automatically calculates the scores for everyone. And there's like power ups and like gamified bits of it, and there's like on every hole there's a screen that shows the current score, who's leading, how many shots everyone's taken.
That's cool.
It's really cool because it's not like truly virtual where you're just hitting into thin air, right? And it kind of ruins the experience a bit. But it's like they've enhanced the experience that you'd have anyway.
The only mini golf I've done, like there's a crazy mini golf place again in Leeds where they you can get a drink and you can go and you can play the like mini crazy golf ahead of time. But you've always got paper. They've always just like you're writing down your own stuff, and it's just like it's fine. But that does sound like a much better implementation of that idea. Yeah,
that's it. Because whenever you're like when you have to write on the paper, you're always juggling it around with the ball and the club and the drink you've got.
Yeah,
and you're trying to your handwriting is terrible, and you're kind of like looking at what numbers you've attempted to have written down at the end when you're trying to calculate the scores.
You put your drink down, but then you've got to put the paper down, but then the area where you're putting your drink down is sticky and wet because everyone else has put their drinks down, and then you're picking your paper up and your paper's wet, and it's
it is a bit of a pain in the arse, which is why I appreciated that Manchester one so much.
But axe throwing.
Cool. It is very cool. And also a member of staff mans the booth, right?
It has to be, right? So you don't just throw axes at somebody else, right?
Exactly. And they keep score, and they make sure that you like stand in the right place, and they make sure that no one else is in the area and all that kind of thing. Which is very good. And the axes themselves, before I'd ever gone axe throwing, I thought these were like big lumberjack axes, right? And they'd be really heavy.
I'm picturing small little axes.
They are like actual axes. Like it was like a Stan Lee brand axe, right? It was like a, but they were quite like mini, because I'd never really imagined what an axe was like before, apart from what I've either seen on TV or Minecraft, right?
Right.
But you can like fully toss these things. It's quite difficult because you can be bang on accuracy wise, right? But if the axe is not in the right part of its rotation, where the head of the axe is facing the wall when it hits it, it will just ping off, right? And then you'll miss, which was quite interesting, but very fun. It went very quickly. We all had a good time. I think I hit the board properly a couple of times, but we were all quite bad. And then we had our response taken off and we played beer pong afterwards, right? And I don't usually play beer pong on like at a venue, but we thought we'd do it this time just because why not? And so traditionally the way beer pong works is you have two sides of a ping pong table, and you have usually 6 cups, set in a row of 3, a row of 2, and then a singular cup on either side of the table. And each cup has a little bit of an alcoholic drink, usually beer, inside it. And each team takes a go at throwing the ping pong ball to the other side. And if they go into the cup, a member of the team on the other side has to then drink the beer in that cup. So they'd bent the rules a little bit this time for the sake of the venue. And they actually filled every cup with water. Like a little bit of water, and then they bought us a pitcher of beer and some glasses, and basically said, if it lands in, pour some and have some. Yeah, exactly. And that was all fine and all. And we were like, yeah, cool, makes sense. But then this lady that served us, she was like, whatever you do, don't drink the water in the cups. And we were like, okay. And she was like adamant. She was like, please.
Yeah.
Really important. Do not drink the water that's in the cups.
That's a terrible rule to have, because especially people who are a little tipsy are just going to do it instinctively. If they've played beer pong before, they're just going to pick up the cup and drink it, no matter what you tell them. Why are you putting poisonous water in the cups?
She's like she honestly, and as she was leaving us to end, she was like, enjoy. She was like, "Don't drink what's in the cups. Remember, do not drink what's in the cups." And I was like, What? Why have they not just put tap water in these cups? Like, have they like what kind of like toilet water or poison water?
Right?
It's gone.
They just go into the bathroom and just scoop it out.
It was so bizarre because you think you'd go to the bar and you'd use the little drinks hose, right? And you'd push the water button and you just go and you'd fill 12 cups, and then you bring them over to wherever.
Whereas what they've actually done is just taken the cups, put them outside, waited for it to rain, and then brought them back in.
Exactly. And put them down. I mean, even that would be safe to drink. So that was just a really, really bizarre observation that stuck in my mind. But
I wonder if it's just like,
yeah.
They're probably like, I don't know, I assume they probably reuse the cups, and then I would assume that potentially by that logic, they might just be like spraying them with like disinfectant or something, or just like they might not be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's potentially why it's not safe to drink or something. But it that seems ridiculous.
That's quite a good theory, actually.
Yeah. The only time I've ever played beer pong out, it's just been standard. Like they've given you cups, they've given you beer, and then you just pour your own beer into the. Like I bought it as like a package, and then they give you like a 4-pack of beer or whatever. You pour it out into the cups, and you just. The ball lands and you drink it. It is a little gross because like the ball, they give you the ball lands on the floor or whatever. They'll give you one cup that is full of like water to dunk it in to wash it. Like, so it'll land on the floor, you'll pick it up and then you'll kind of rinse it. And then you'll go again. But even still, if it lands on the sticky bar floor and then you just give it a quick dunk in the water, it's still a little gross, but like,
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Maybe that's one of the reasons why she said don't drink what's in the cups because the ball's landed in it. I have no idea.
But so I've drank that though. I've had a ball land on the floor. I've done it in a little wash and then it's landed in a beer and I've drank it. So I mean,
look, the beer's got alcohol in it, right? It disinfects the ball. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt it's like super hygienic, but also I doubt that if I went and licked the floor, I would like just immediately get ill. I think I'd be fine.
Die, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
right. Like,
exactly.
I'm sure my immune system can handle it. But no,
exactly.
That's weird, man. That's interesting. I'd be interested in axe throwing, man. I've never done that, but that's an interesting endeavor that I'd like to give that a go.
You should give it a try.
The fact that it's like an uneven, I imagine the head's heavier as well. Like I imagine like the whole endeavor, it's quite an interesting experience, like to try and to throw that and land it and hit it where you want to hit it. And
like the lady that was manning our booth that was telling us how to do it. There's two techniques. You can either go like, there was like you like stand in a certain position, you keep your arm like straight like that, and then you like throw. And then the other method was to like hold it above your head like this, and then throw it like you're some kind of Viking. Both of them equal results, which were very temperamental for me. Yeah. But quite fun.
I think it's going to feel cooler to do the overhead like throw. But I'd also be worried 100%. That I'd just like throw it straight down at my feet or something, just,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, man. A few times the axe would like ping off the boards and it would come back, and there's like an area just below the board that you're trying to hit which is filled full of wooden chips. And so the axe would, if it should, rebound off of the board or the wall, would then just land into this kind of large area of wooden chips, and then that would absorb the impact and it would stop. But a few times it did like bounce back onto the floor and like almost hit your feet, right, or go past you. It was a bit like whoa, which is probably why any newer venues that are doing this are doing the augmented reality one.
I assume that you can drink and do the augmented reality one.
Yes.
And so I apologize. Yes. I assume it's just more revenue for them as well, right? Under that scenario.
Exactly. We did actually have to sign a waiver before that. You have to sign like a little thing. Obviously, the we as the venue take no responsibility in any injury caused, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a good point.
That's quite something, man. That is quite something. I don't know if you've seen this, man. On the docket there, I've got a new PS5 accessory jotted down.
I saw.
Have you seen this new PS5 accessory?
I haven't.
Right. So the PlayStation, known for making home game consoles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're also known for making portable home game consoles, right? I don't know if you've ever had a PSP or a PlayStation Vita, or if you've ever...
I did used to have a PSP.
Yeah. So...
Oh, okay. I think I've heard about what you're about to talk about.
Yeah. So
they've continue.
They've got a new... This is an accessory. It's called the PlayStation Portal. And if you just Google it, PlayStation portal. It is essentially just they've taken the DualShock 5, the PlayStation 5 controller, snapped it in half and put an 8-inch screen between the two sides of this controller.
Oh, yeah, they literally have done that.
Exactly.
That is a perfect description. Like, it's not even like a piss taking description. It literally is the stems, the handles of the PS5 controller, with a screen in the middle of it.
They've taken it, they've snapped it in half, and they've just put a screen in the center of the device. Now, the premise here, this isn't an actual console. There's no hardware on here, no chip, like no CPU, GPU that can do anything. This is a streaming device. It streams games from your PlayStation 5 to the screen, right?
I see. Over the local network.
Over Wi-Fi. You can do it not on your local network, so long as your destination Wi-Fi is fast enough or internet, right?
Sure.
So like if you're at a friend's house and they've got decent internet and your PS5 at home is like on Wi-Fi or is Ethernet connected up, you can stream, as soon as you turn this on, it will turn your PlayStation 5 on and it will just stream the games to you, right? The thing is, though, it's £200.
I just had a look at that.
Yeah. And I think $200 as well.
Sure.
A Nintendo Switch is like $240. And that's a fully fledged console. A Steam Deck is like $330 maybe for like the entry-level Steam Deck. I feel like it's a hard sell to sell what is essentially, a Steam Deck is $349, to sell what is essentially just a controller with a screen in it.
Yeah, with a Wi-Fi chip.
£200.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It's quite a lot. Like again, go on.
I was gonna say, I think I've heard. And you remind me, or like agree with me or disagree with me if you've heard the same or differently. Don't you have to buy the PlayStation earphones?
So it has a headphone.
Work with this?
It has a headphone jack, so you can put wired headphones in, but it has no Bluetooth, right?
Right.
However, there is a new PlayStation protocol that they're calling PlayStation Link. And so if you have wireless earbuds that support PlayStation Link, you can use those with this device, right? And they do have new earbuds that are like also £200 or something that support it. So people have made a big deal about this, and I understand why, because like it seems it is insane, right? The idea that it doesn't have Bluetooth. I think it's $200 for the earbuds that do have Bluetooth. I think there is some logic to it, and I think the logic to it might not be good logic, because the Switch also doesn't have Bluetooth, I don't think. Or it might have now. I don't think it did initially. It might still not. I don't know. But like the PlayStation 5 also doesn't have Bluetooth. You can't use Bluetooth earbuds with the PlayStation 5 at all, right?
Sure.
And I think the reasoning behind that is latency, which is, I think, a fair reasoning, because the latency on Bluetooth is usually quite bad, right? To the point where I've tried to game with Bluetooth, it doesn't work, right? Like it's doable, but the sound delay is noticeable, right?
Yeah.
And so they don't offer, like a PS5 controller, I've got one here, does have a headphone jack at the bottom, so you can headphone jack from the controller to your ears. So if you want to use headphones, you can do that.
Okay.
But you can't use Bluetooth with, I think, the Xbox consoles or the PlayStation consoles. And I think it's due to latency. So I've not looked into the new PlayStation like Link setup. If they've got like I assume it's just a version of Bluetooth that's like ultra low latency. It might be like aptX or something. If that's the case, I can understand why they've done it. If they're like, because they've also said that it's open, like other manufacturers can make wireless earbuds that support PlayStation Link. And if that's the case, I'm somewhat okay with it. But if it's because some people are making it out like you just have to buy Sony's earbuds, right? I think I saw like an MKBHD clip.
Ours work.
Yeah.
Ours apparently ours are compatible. Our XM4s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is interesting.
That is interesting. Because like I watched I think an MKBHD clip where he mentioned like Apple, he compared it to like Apple making a new iPhone with the new Apple protocol that only AirPods would work, which I think is similar but not quite fair in that they are opening it up to other people, I guess. But I don't know, if it's just a new standard for like ultra low latency gaming focused Bluetooth, then like I'm fine with it. If it's not that, if the latency is like similar or worse, then that's not good. But like I see the appeal of the portable screen, right? Like if somebody else is using the TV, you want to play your PlayStation or you want to do it in a different room.
Yeah.
I get it. My experience with streaming games has been not good. Like whenever I've tried to use like any kind of game streaming stuff, I had a Steam Link back in the day, which was like a little box that you could plug in and you HDMI'd it.
Yeah.
And it connected to Wi-Fi. And then you could stream from your gaming PC to like, your TV. I've used it. It works okay for some games. Mostly I'd use it for like party games, right? That I have on my PC. Like if you want to play Jackbox or something, it's easy to stream it to the TV. And like, it works okay, but any kind of actual gaming, I did not find it to be particularly good, right? Like I wouldn't want to sit and play games like that for a long period of time. I'd rather just like either move my PC or sit at my desk and play it, right? So, like I get it, but at $200, it seems real expensive for what it is. And I don't know.
It is a lot.
I mean, comparing it to a Switch might not be fair because, like, if you already have a PlayStation 5, then you probably already have PlayStation 5 games. You'd have to buy, whereas if you buy a Switch, you've then got to buy games for it and stuff. But I don't know, man. The fact that it's a £200 accessory that you have to spend £500 on a PS5 to be able to use it, like, you're talking like £700 in all in the package. And I don't think they've announced any battery life info on it yet. So it's an odd...
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have... Yeah, that is a whole other facet, isn't it?
Right.
The thing is, man, is like people bought the PSVR, right?
Yeah, I bought the PSVR. I have it.
You bought PSVR.
Yeah.
Which is, I want to say more expensive, was it? Than the PlayStation
PSVR, I think
itself?
it's like, it might be like $549.
Right, okay.
Which is more expensive than I paid for the PSVR, PlayStation.
And that, I assume, is can't use standalone.
No, you need it uses the PlayStation, yes.
You do need to use the PlayStation. So maybe it's not.
But see, I don't know.
Crazy.
Like, I'm not saying there's not a market for it. I think there definitely is. But like, the thing is, PlayStation streaming is already available. You can stream PlayStation games to your phone and then connect a PS5 controller via Bluetooth to your phone and play them, right?
Right.
So the streaming is not like you can already do it using your phone, right? There are slight technicalities there in that if you do it that way, you have to go and turn your PlayStation 5 on manually, whereas the new PlayStation Portal, I believe, can turn it on remotely. Like when you turn it on, it automatically turns your PlayStation 5 on via some wizardry, and I assume it's just a smoother process with potentially lower latency, I don't know. But you can already do the game streaming from a PlayStation 5 to other stuff, and I think the Xbox has a similar feature where you can stream Xbox games as well to other devices.
Yeah.
But, and so, with the PSVR, I think the price is similar to other offerings, right? Like the Valve Index is like a grand and also isn't standalone, right? You need a gaming PC for that. The Vive is also hundreds of pounds, and like, there are standalones from Meta that are cheaper, but graphically they're just nowhere near the same, right? At that point, you're talking like a kind of a phone chip in a headset versus like the PS5, which is like a graphics card, for the PSVR 2. So I don't know. I see more of an appeal to the PSVR 2. The Portal, I think if they'd have charged like at most $150 for it, I could have.
It would have been okay.
Yeah, maybe even like $129.99. Like it'd have been like a steal. Like I'd been like, oh, easy, no brainer.
Like a controller plus.
Exactly.
Right?
Like the controller's like 60 quid.
The controller's already quite expensive. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's like $59.99. And so, exactly.
It is, yes.
Yeah, but the fact that they're charging so much more than a controller for what is a controller with a screen and a Wi-Fi chip, like,
that's a lot. That's a lot. The market will decide, I guess, right? Because this thing might just not sell.
Yeah,
right?
I imagine it's probably not that expensive for Sony. Like, I doubt it took too much R&D to get this out the door, right? Like it is cool that it's a DualShock 5. Like, it's got all the DualShock 5 features, like the haptic triggers and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man.
This is interesting. This is very interesting. What's the like the screen resolution and
it's
stuff
1080p.
here? 1080p.
LCD, not an OLED. 8 inches, I believe.
60 FPS. Yeah,
60 FPS.
So it's pretty
correct.
standard, basically.
Yeah, like I assume the games
all
will
things
look
considered
good, which I think is the Steam Deck is 720p, so I think this is higher resolution than the Steam Deck. But then again, that also factors into the battery life might be lower, right? But at the same time, the Steam Deck does have to play the games, whereas the PS.
This just streams it.
If this thing has if this has like a 12-hour battery life, I think there's some merit
then it would be
to it.
like, right? You could really just play it in bed, you know,
I think the
all
Steam
that kind
Deck,
of deal.
The Steam Deck can be as low as like an hour and a half if you're playing something intensive. Like you can really tank through the battery on that thing. You know, up to maybe like 6 hours if you're playing something super light. I think I don't have a Steam Deck, but that's what I've heard. So if it's got like very good battery life because it's just streaming the game, then I could see it maybe being a bit more understandable. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, it's just that, like, I think people would have preferred, obviously it's a vastly different project, but I think people would have preferred just another handheld from Sony, right? Like a PS Vita 2 or a PSP 2 or like a PSP 5.
That's what I was thinking, right? Because the handheld market's kind of hotting up again, right?
Massively.
After the introduction of the Switch, after the Steam Deck came out, now everyone's doing all these handhelds. There's the Iron Neo, Logitech's got their own thing as well.
Asus as well, like, with the ROG Alloy.
Alloy. Everyone's releasing these handhelds. So for Sony to have come in and swoop the market,
they're like, we've got a new handheld, guys. And they're like, wait. That's what we wanted.
It's just it's
interesting.
just like a streaming thing.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there was a time where all of the companies kind of thought handheld is dead. People have mobile phones now, right? Everyone's going to just play games on their phone. And then I think people then realized, no, people don't want to play games on their phone, at least not like controller-based games on their phone, right?
No,
and there is still
it's finicky, isn't it?
It's super finicky.
With a touchscreen.
And there's all those like accessories, like Razer Cell one, where you can like clip things to the side of your phone that give it. And I think then people realize, no, there is still a market for actual handheld consoles, right? The Switch is killing it, right? People,
exactly.
How old is the Switch? The tech in the Switch is so old at this point.
I want to say it's 5 years old. I want to say it came out in 2018.
I feel like it could be older, you know.
2017.
2017, fair enough.
So, yeah,
but so it's 6 years old, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't groundbreaking at the time when it came out. The Switch came out and it was fairly underpowered compared to anything else, right? And so the fact that is still so popular, as popular as it is, like people have been asking for like a Switch Pro for years now, and it's still not a thing. Yeah.
And but when the OLED one came out, that was like even just the screen upgrade was very popular, right? Everyone I know who got a Switch got that one. When it after it came out, when they were in the market for one.
So I don't know. I think it would be interesting. I think it would have been more interesting if they'd have released some kind of like portable PlayStation console that could play PlayStation games, just cut back, right?
100% on the go, and maybe even like if they really wanted to make things spicy. Say that if you had the game already on PS5, you could 100%. Play it on this handheld.
Yeah, that's
as long as you can play them both at the same time, right?
Yeah,
that would have been amazing. Bingo. And did you have a PSP?
I didn't. I've never had a portable PlayStation. No,
I had a PSP. Amazing. I love that thing so much. To be able to take that and just play all these games, you know, on flights and things like that on the go. The PSP was such a great console, and it was 2007, 2006, 2007, 8, like that kind of era.
I think that's the thing though. I think the PlayStation, maybe they were just too early, you know. I think the PlayStation, the PSP and the PS Vita, I think they never gained enough traction to kind of super take off. But everybody that I know that had like a PSP was like, yeah, it was great. I loved it. Right? I really liked having it. And so it is interesting to see Sony just kind of not run with that, right?
Yeah. Yo, the first PSP was announced in 2005.
Yeah, it's
I remember that one. That was like a fat one. I got the chunkier one, which was like 2007, I think. And then they released an even slimmer one, and then they did the Vita, which was not good.
The Xbox Series S is $249, right?
There you go. Yeah.
The fact that you can almost buy that console for the price of PlayStation's new streaming accessory is madness, right?
And the Switch Lite is £192 on Amazon.
That's cheaper,
right?
yeah.
$185, yes, if you get it in pink. So
that's the cheaper thing. And by the way, the Xbox Series S on Black Friday went down to $189. So
there you go.
It's like, that's the thing. I think when you've got options like that, because the Switch, obviously, if you take the PlayStation Portal, you can't play it on a plane. Right? You can't play it on a train. You can't play it on a bus. You can't play it in the back of a car, right? You can't do any of those things. Whereas if you have a Steam Deck, you can play those everywhere, right? You take a battery bank with you, you get longer hours or whatever. The same with the Switch. You can play that anywhere you want, right? It just works locally. You don't need any external setup. And like, I feel like I don't outside of just using it elsewhere in your own home, I feel like almost anywhere else you go, the Wi-Fi is not going to be good enough, right? Hotel Wi-Fi is probably not fast enough. You go to a friend's house maybe, but like you go to a friend's house to just use their Wi-Fi and play a PlayStation that you can play at home. Like I don't, do you know what I mean? I don't see
it's
outside of playing it in bed, which is like for me,
that's it.
All I see.
It's very niche. It's extremely niche,
right?
Yeah, I don't think it'll take off. Like if you live in like a monster house, right? And you know you want to play it anywhere in the house, and you happen to have like a nice mesh Wi-Fi network where you got good coverage everywhere, then maybe this is.
But you
good,
only have one TV with the PlayStation that can. I don't know.
Right, exactly. That's the thing, right? If you've got that kind of setup, a lot of times you'll have multiple games consoles in multiple rooms. If you've got that league of setup, and in which case you want to play on a big TV, you want to, when people come over, that kind of deal. It is literally the console to play in bed.
Bingo. Like that's it.
Or it's like just for bed.
I don't know, your wife wants to watch TV and you want to play the console, so you know, take the back seat and play on the couch or something. But like, I don't know.
The Wii U was that with like the Wii U gave you the controller thing with the console, doesn't it? Which is quite interesting.
That's the thing. I think the idea of I don't think the idea is bad. I think it's a cool accessory. I just think the price is wrong. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's too expensive for what it is, given what else is out there. The fact that you can buy an Xbox console for around the same price, right? A current generation Xbox console, right? The Series S, albeit cut back. The fact that you can buy that for the price of just a streaming device, like a streaming controller.
Crazy.
You know, if it was like $129.99, killer, right? I think it would
be great.
A popular edition. It's like, okay, that's a cool little thing you can get, but the fact that it's $200 doesn't support Bluetooth, unknown battery life. Yeah, I don't know, man. The fact that it's 1080p is cool, though. That's fairly high resolution.
Nice.
For
that is good for.
But again, the higher the resolution you go, the more Wi-Fi bandwidth you need, right? 1080p 60 at a high bit rate, it gets up there, right? You're talking like probably close to 50 megabits per second. Like it's a lot, you know.
I do wonder how it will deal with connection problems. If it'll go pixely, or if it'll cut out, right, or like skip frames.
I think the bitrate will just tank and it'll just go really blocky, and then and the latency will get worse. And
I'm looking at the Wii U, and the Wii U came out at 300, right? I know the Wii U was a flop, but that was 300 for both things, right? Now, obviously, with inflation, let's say that all the prices of everything since 2012 has doubled, right? Which is, that's probably more than reality in a lot of cases. But
I also think the Wii U was $249, by the way, for the Wii U. I'm saying.
Oh, $249. Okay, there you go then. Even
the premium edition, Black edition was $299, but yeah, the standard was $249. Okay.
So then even more support for my argument is I know obviously the Wii U again was Nintendo doesn't put very powerful hardware in their consoles, but the PS5 Portal combo is not $500, right? The PS5 on its own is pretty much $500.
I think so.
Right?
Because I'm pretty sure they've done a price increase as well.
So
like I think recently both Xbox and PlayStation 5 have increased that price. Yeah, it went up from $449 in the UK to $479 for the
I
UK.
see. So
PS5.
£480.
Yep.
So you're spending £680 retail for the console and the screen, right? Which is way over
£700.
What the Wii U would have cost. It's probably almost 3 times.
Yep.
Right?
That's the
right?
thing,
Almost
right?
3 times more expensive. So
if you don't currently own a PS5, the choice between that and a Steam Deck, I think, is maybe a no-brainer. Like the fact that a Steam Deck games are cheaper on PC. The fact that the Steam Deck can play the games anywhere. The Steam Deck, obviously, again, the battery life can be a huge factor for that one. But, like, I don't know, man. Obviously, if you're in your own house, you can just plug it in and play it in your bed, right? Like, I'm sure you got a plug socket nearby.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know, man. The fact that the Steam Deck is $349,
Yeah.
I assume I'm probably going to get people telling me that obviously the PlayStation 5 is more powerful than the Steam Deck, and the games will run better and look better on the Portal than on the Steam Deck, but it's half the price of the combo.
And you can take it anywhere.
You can take it anywhere you want.
Yeah. I mean, I am someone who does not own a PS5, and I would get the Steam Deck over the PS5, right? Like, no brainer.
I'd be interested. I think the ergonomics of the Portal are probably better, right? I imagine it's lighter.
Of the actual handles as well, right?
It's got like the PS5 controller is good, right? I've not used a Steam Deck. It doesn't look comfortable to me. Like if you, I don't know if you Google the Steam Deck here, but like the buttons, the
Yes.
two sticks at the top, like I assume it works, but like
but it's all a bit kind of.
it looks very
It's
cramped
quite
at the top.
a square surface, and you kind of looks like you might have to stretch your fingers a little bit because the console is quite big, apparently, isn't it? I've never
The Steam Deck, I believe,
held
yeah.
a Steam Deck, or I've never seen it. Anything to compare it for size. But what everyone says is it's pretty massive, isn't it?
It's big. It's bigger than the Switch is, right? By quite a decent margin. If I show you the link, there is the. I don't know if that's gonna open up right or not, but there's like a Switch versus a Steam Deck. It's quite big, and so I imagine the Portal is probably more ergonomic. Like it's lighter. I imagine the handles are nicer, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, like I said, for the price is just off for it. I think I don't think it's it. I wonder if it'll come down in price, quickly or not.
Maybe, maybe. Oh yeah, that is significantly bigger than a Switch.
Quite
isn't
big,
it?
yeah.
It's like really like wide.
Wide,
it's very
yeah.
wide. Yeah, very wide.
I don't know, I quite like the Switch, the layout of the buttons and stuff. I'd have to try the Steam Deck, of course, but like it looks like those buttons and analog sticks are real high up on the Steam Deck there.
They are, aren't they? Yeah, and they're set in quite a lot more compared to the Switch. They're like set in from the sides.
People rave about the Steam Deck.
No, obviously they will have tested this loads, right?
Yeah.
But it is a very interesting observation.
Yeah, but no, I'd be interested on this PlayStation Portal thing, and the fact again, just the core premise that it's streaming the games over Wi-Fi. I think for all but the most casual gamers, you're not playing any hardcore gaming like on this. You're not playing any Apex Legends or Fortnite or PUBG, like any of the competitive games. You're not being competitive over a Wi-Fi, right? You've already got the latency between the Wi-Fi and your PS5 to then add extra latency of you streaming it to your console. Like it's too much latency for competitive gaming. So you're limiting yourself to casual gaming, and at that point, like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like you'd just rather. You don't get the 4K nature of the PS5. You don't get the high frame rate of the PS5. You don't get, the low latency. It's just, you don't get the OLED if you've got an OLED TV. Like it's, I don't know. For me, I don't know about it. Go on.
You know what? I would have said it's worth it if you could play a game on the PS5 at lowered settings simultaneously to playing on the Portal. If you do that, and you could basically have two people using it at once.
Oh yeah, sure.
The console.
Like if you had like a co-op game that normally would require two PlayStations to play.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're saying
or
play it
even
once.
two separate games, right? Like, Jimmy on the Portal is playing, game A.
He's playing Ratchet and Clank, but lowered.
Exactly.
Like, he's playing at 1080p instead of 4K, and then somebody else is playing, whatever they want to play. They're playing
and then,
Fortnite.
the sibling is, is playing on the, but with lowered settings because it's, running two games at once. Then I could see it because that could then be,
it's a value add at that point, right, for a family.
Exactly. You're actually, getting more out of your console, and you always have that situation where if there's one console and multiple siblings, and there's like, who gets to play when. If you could now buy this device that could then mean that two people could play at once, that's worth it because then you save against buying a whole other console, right?
100%. And obviously, like if you're in a family like that, you probably don't have a second TV somewhere that like a big TV for a second console, right? And so like that would be a killer feature for that kind of device, 100%. Yeah.
And then for £200, you're like, okay, cool, because then that you are going into that situation playing the console at home, right? It's just another person playing the console at home, but comparing it against all of the truly portable stuff where the processing is done on device, not the one. But
No,
Sony, free consulting if you want to introduce that feature.
I don't know how doable that feature is because I think
I have no idea.
I think
there'd be a lot of work.
I think the trouble with the consoles as well is they're very powerful graphically speaking. Right? Like, I think the graphics card in the PlayStation 5 is equivalent to a fairly high-end gaming PC, right? Obviously not like a 40 series graphics card, but from when it came out, it was fairly good. But the CPU is nowhere near, right? The CPU is much worse comparatively, right? Whereas, like, most modern PCs will have, like, a more even match, right? I think the CPU is a lot less good on the console, because obviously they don't need to do a lot of CPU heavy stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like, simulation games and that kind of thing are very popular on console, right? Stuff like City Skylines or whatever. And so I think the trouble you'd run into there is that you could probably graphically do it. I imagine there's enough GPU power to run two, 720p or 1080p versions of a game at once. But then usually when you lower the resolution of a game, it doesn't necessarily decrease its CPU demand too much, depending on the type of game it is, right? And so I imagine that is where you could potentially run into a bottleneck, right? And then it's like, is it just certain games that are supported? Is it like a, suddenly it becomes like a whole thing?
Yeah. I see why they didn't do it. But if they did, that would have been nice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. 100%. All right, Nick, I think that about does it for this episode of the What Have You Been Up To podcast. I hope you all enjoyed listening to us ramble on for a little while about what we've been up to and stuff that's been going on in the world as well. If you're interested, you can join the Discord. Discord will be linked in the description down below or in the show notes if you're watching on your favorite, or listening, sorry, on your favorite podcasting platform. Or you can go to discord.whybut.co. That's WHYBUT.co. You can also go to twitter.whybut.co or instagram.whybut.co if you want to follow us on any of those platforms. Again, links will be in the show notes / description if you're interested in that kind of stuff. For now, though, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll see you next week.
Goodbye. Everybody.